It's almost like Startup Weekend or a hackathon on steroids. It's a sprint for sure. Our industry partners, the startups, really have an opportunity to appreciate the talent that we have on our campus, and it's a great way for them to be able to recruit prospective employees, interns, into their organization. And for our students, like I said, it's a great opportunity to see what it's like to solve problems, the day-to-day that we all have to kind of struggle through.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, whenever you may be listening, and welcome to Latitude, the 43 North podcast. I'm your host, Nate Benson, and we have a fantastic show for you this week. We have Hadar Borden from the UB Blackstone Launchpad, presented by Techstars. Blackstone Launchpad is a fantastic resource for students at the University of Buffalo. It's actually an international organization, and they happen to have a chapter here at the University of Buffalo for students to take advantage of. So what exactly is Blackstone Launchpad, presented by Techstars? Well, I'm going to let Hadar talk that, so let's not waste another minute with me and get right to this week's episode. Hadar, how are you today?
I'm well, thanks. How you doing?
Doing fantastic. So for those who don't know you, why don't you give us the quick pitch of who you are and what you do?
Sure. So I am the program director for Blackstone Launchpad, powered by Techstars at the University of Buffalo. And then I also have the privilege of supporting the Western New York Prosperity Fellowship Program. And it's all in an effort to encourage entrepreneurship and cultivate a culture of innovation and creativity on our campus.
So the branding folks at Techstars really trained you well. You got the Blackstone Launchpad presented by Techstars, all that branding in one.
I know, right? It is a mouthful, but it's a lot of fun.
It's important to have. So before we get into Blackstone and what you do at UB, kind of give us the background of how you got here and what the journey was like.
Sure. So I think I was invited to consider this as an opportunity in my next journey on campus, probably because I've been that connector for students both on campus and into the community. And I think a role like this, where we are really trying to bridge experiences from the university to the community to industry, it was really important for someone to come into this role having that experience. So I've directed a living and learning community called the Academies years ago, where we had one of our academies was an entrepreneurship academy established in 2009. And that was kind of my entree into this world of economic development. In the same right, the Western New York Prosperity Fellowship that is funded by the Prentice Family Foundation to identify and invest in students that have that potential to contribute to economic development in the region. Again, that was my entree into this world. So it's those experiences that have, I think, made me a good fit for this role.
So how long have you been at UB in total?
Oh, gosh. So this will age me.
I know it's never polite to ask, right? I'm sorry.
No. This is actually will be my 18th year. I started in 2001 back as a professional staff member.
So what's changed on campus? We were just talking briefly about the show. I was there from 07 to 09, and there was no quote-unquote entrepreneurship, degree, or Blackstone wasn't even there. So what have you noticed in these 18 years that has changed on campus?
Sure. Well, I think the pride in the university has changed quite a bit. I think our students are really excited to share that they're at the university, and I think that has changed because of the opportunities afforded to them, whether, as I mentioned before, a living and learning community where we're trying to connect students with faculty, really intentionally providing experiences outside of the classroom. The experiential learning experiences are plentiful, whether it's studying abroad or the internship experiences that we've been able to create for students. And then the opportunity to focus on whether it's entrepreneurship or thinking about maybe sustainability issues in our community. I think we've really been able to afford our students many more experiences and stories that will make them more competitive for whether or not they want to start their own business or be employed by another organization.
So tell me a little bit about Blackstone Launchpad. It's an international organization, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So kind of go through the roots of that and how it got to Buffalo.
Sure. So Blackstone Launchpad, powered by Techstars, recent partnership of Blackstone Launchpad and Techstars. But the concept came to us from, I think, the university's interest to grow entrepreneurship and that ecosystem on campus, and we knew that we needed something to be that catalyst, the connector of experiences. We always had a little bits and pieces of entrepreneurship on campus, but nothing really to coordinate it across and into the Western New York community. And so this opportunity came about for the university to put together a proposal, and we were one of 5 institutions in New York State, which I love to share. It's Syracuse University, the University at Albany, Cornell, as well as NYU and
small
UB,
schools,
right?
Yeah, you may not have heard of them for those listeners.
Right. So it's a huge win for us, and it's a great story to share with prospective students and their families. And I think it's a boost for Buffalo as a whole.
So, kind of every day, how are students engaging with Blackstone, and what does that curriculum look like? How are they participating? How are they joining, and why are they joining?
Sure. So Blackstone Launchpad, powered by Techstars, our goal is to create a culture of creativity and innovation at the university, and we do that through a number of ways, through workshops, speakers. We have a series called How I Built This. We borrowed it from Guy Raz. I did tweet at him to ask for permission, but they never responded, shockingly. So we host speakers on campus. We have competitions, right? Everyone needs a big life-size check in their room.
Everybody needs a big check.
Right? So we host those experiences, and we also offer our students venture coaching. So we support our students, our alumni. So this is something that graduates out with students, faculty, and staff. And we help them take an idea that they might have and truly develop it into a startup business. So they have an opportunity to engage with us however they feel most comfortable, whether they're just picking up a skill through a workshop or maybe actually meeting with a venture coach and developing their idea.
So what are the types of businesses students are starting? Is it primarily coming from the research side of University of Buffalo, where they're spending years researching something, now they want to commercialize it, or is it kind of the Joe everyday student with, I have an idea and want to start a business?
Sure. I think we have everything in between, from an app to a not-for-profit organization, and we support all of those. I believe you had Dan Buckmaster, who started Tresca Design, so he's a mechanical engineer. You had him on your show. And then we also have Elijah Tyson and Abid Alam, who started Cold Space. So 2 different ventures. We have a student named Isabel Hall, who you probably should bring onto your show. Her focus is encouraging more students to consider engineering, STEM fields, through a program called Inspiring Future Engineers. So we really try to support students that are taking what they're passionate about, what they're researching in the lab, and what they're interested in, helping them start that into a business.
What are some of the challenges for student entrepreneurs? Because there's obviously finding you don't know what you don't know, and that's a theme I bring up quite often when I'm talking to regular startups and things like that. So in your experience in dealing with students, obviously they're hungry with their idea and they want to succeed, but where are they kind of dropping the ball, so to speak, if they are, or where are they seeing trouble?
Sure. I think that our students, they are hungry for a challenge. Oftentimes, though, because they are students, their number one responsibility is in the classroom. They have a struggle with managing their time and how much effort to put into one or the other and follow through because of the demands on their time from their academics. But I also think it's a struggle and maybe gaining support, and that's why it's nice to have a community evolving on campus and in Western New York that understands them and is encouraging. So it's important to have that for our student entrepreneurs.
I'd like to talk to the students directly now. The managing of your time haunts you for the rest of your life. So if you feel like you haven't mastered it at 22 or 23, don't worry.
Right.
At 33, trust me, it's just as much of a challenge.
Absolutely.
So another thing you guys have going on is the She Started It.
Right.
Which, can you explain a little bit of what that program is and what you're really trying to gear for in that regard?
So with our entrepreneurship programming, we're really trying to reach out to everyone that can be an entrepreneur, because I think we have these shirts that say this is what an entrepreneur looks like, that everyone has a place in this community. And we are an educational institution in Western New York, and our responsibility is to give back and develop that pipeline of prospective entrepreneurs. And so we've taken the perspective of, she started it, encouraging 6th to 10th grade girls to think about the tech industry and think about a career in tech as possibly an entrepreneur. So we've hosted this event. This will be our second year. We'll be hosting it this Saturday, April 13th in 2019. Where
April or January?
April 13th,
So
2019.
plenty of time, plenty of lead time to register for that.
Absolutely. And we'll be sending out some of the save the dates to the local schools to encourage them to tell their students. But the idea is spend a day at the Buffalo Erie Public Library exploring the tech industry and see that there is a possibility and a place for you there as a female entrepreneur.
Which is obviously something, very important. There's a lot of kind of women-focused and girl-focused entrepreneurship and technology-based organizations in Buffalo. All of them are absolutely fantastic. I've got a 6-year-old daughter at home, so that's near and dear to my heart. I want to make sure she's at the cutting edge of technology when she's growing up, which I don't allow. I'm not allowing her to grow up, but we'll see what happens.
Good luck with that.
I'm going to lose, I'm sure. How can students start leveraging some of the early successes we're seeing in the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Western New York? We're seeing companies come through 43 North and Z80 and launch New York. We're seeing, kind of everyday people starting their businesses and their passions, and whether it's an Etsy store growing into a mom and pop shop on Main Street or whatever. Entrepreneurship seems to be on the rise in Buffalo, which we're thrilled about.
Right.
How can students start leveraging that right when they get into college?
Right. So as I mentioned, I'm a connector, but I like to connect our students and to all of these opportunities. I think if you're interested in entrepreneurship, you really need to get yourself plugged into what's happening in the community. So maybe it's attending a networking event or startup grind or startup weekend. Just being part of the culture, part of the experience at the beginning, but also look for opportunities to volunteer your time or do an internship. If you're interested in this world, you got to get to know some of the players. And the best way to be successful is to gain experiences, but also learn from observing. And by observing some successes, but also really important is observing some of those failures, because then you know what you need to avoid or think about in the future.
Looking at who you've got, or who's come through the Blackstone kind of program. And I use this answer, because there's so many companies when people ask us, "Oh, who's your favorite?" Or it's like, "Well, I love all my kids equally."
Right.
But are there any companies that have really, graduated through the program, graduated UB, and are now on to incredible things, and it all kind of got its start at Blackstone?
Yeah, so we definitely, I can't name my favorites.
Right, like any good parent.
Right. But I think it's those entrepreneurs, those alums now that we're really able to leverage all of the experiences and the support that the university has built around them that I think about. So those students, like I said, that attended networking events, that participated in pitch competitions that we host, that reached out to community members and startup business leaders to learn about their own experience. I think that's what made them successful, and that's who I think about as they're able to take these experiences and transfer them to wherever it is they are today, when they're running their own business or if they're in the C-suite.
Looking ahead, kind of in the future, seeing so many ideas come through the office at the Student Union on UB's North Campus, what are some of the industries that you think students are really engaging with, and you're seeing kind of more than one student have that idea and trying to put together that business? And is there a common thread you're seeing from a kind of startup standpoint with students you're talking to? You're
talking about aside from the parking apps that I see every day?
Yes. Aside from parking apps.
For sure. So I think what we're seeing more and more is more collaboration across decadal units, and that is something that's one of our core values, and is encouraging that interdisciplinary approach to problem solving. So we're seeing a lot of health innovation, and that's, we have a biomedical engineering PhD program at the university. There's a focus on public health on our campus. So we're seeing more and more around health innovation as an interest area. That's one specifically, but also that social innovation and entrepreneurship. Our students are very purposeful and are really interested in giving back to their community, not only that for-profit, but the social focus and the social justice issue.
Seems like especially this generation of students coming up, they have that kind of social good, social entrepreneur kind of thread that goes through everything, and they've trying to be as conscious as possible about what their business has, what impact it has on the community, right?
Absolutely, and that's why we've started programs like our Social Impact Fellows program, where our Blackstone Launchpad, as well as the School of Management and the School of Social Work, have partnered together to offer an experience for our students, embed students in internships with for-profit and nonprofit organizations, really looking at social issues and how can they come up with creative solutions to support them. And also another example is our World's Challenge competition, where we've taken the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals and encouraged our students to think about solutions to these development goals and how they might be able to use their gifts and contribute to solutions.
Has partnering with other departments at the University of Buffalo been successful? With institutions like the size of UB, it would make sense that everyone's kind of talking to each other, but it's actually very easy to kind of work in silos and not sure like who's working on what. So what's that partnership been like kind of intra-university level?
Sure. So the beauty of it, when Blackstone Launchpad was first brought to campus, the folks on campus really were thoughtful and decided to establish the program in a central location. So no one has a responsibility, or no one has, there are no boundaries, if you will. Everyone wants to be our friend, which has been super helpful as we're trying to build relationships with the School of Public Health, or maybe the School of Architecture and Planning. Everyone wants to play in the sandbox, as they say.
Playing in the sandbox is quite fun, I should say. The startups coming through and developing in Western New York, what's the best way for them to start connecting with students who are especially in their junior, senior years? We hear so much around the 43 North space and other spaces that we encounter, wanting to tap into that student resource, wanting to, gravitate towards, kids fresh out of college so that they stay here and they don't, fly out elsewhere. And of course, parents love that idea too. So how can that engagement really kind of build to the next level?
Sure. So I would say for any of our local entrepreneurs, organizations in the community that want to reach our students, I think it's through our career services offices, making sure that your internships are known to us, connect with Blackstone Launchpad. I'm happy to connect our local organizations with students. We have a listserv and a newsletter that goes out twice weekly to our students. We have close to 10,000 individuals on that listserv. So sharing openings, opportunities for our students to engage with local companies on that listserv is a great opportunity.
I might have to share our weekly podcast with that listserv too.
I'd be happy to promote it.
Shameless plug, I know. So looking ahead to the rest of this year, what's the outlook look like? I know you're kind of in between semesters now, but what's coming up in spring that the community should know about?
Sure. So we talked a little bit about She Started It. That's a really amazing opportunity for the community members, and again, for a university as a leader here to extend and encourage more girls in our community to be thinking about entrepreneurship in the tech industry. We have lots of competitions, so come to campus and see our students compete for those large checks. We have our finals for our Aging Innovation Challenge at the end of February. We'll also have our Henry A. Panache competition in April. And again, come and see the creativity and the ideas that our students have.
I know about Panache because we feature the winners every year at the 43 North Finals, but I don't know about what is it, Aging Innovation?
Oh, yes.
What is Aging Innovation? Because that's a fantastic name.
Yeah, so this, I can't take credit for it, but the New York State Health Commissioner last year issued a call to students at all of the colleges and universities in New York State to team up and come up with a solution or an innovation to support caregivers and the elderly in activities of daily living. So it was specifically focused on ADLs. There are 6 of them. I can't come up with all of them right now. But our students came up with solutions to support caregivers and the elderly and focused on really keeping them living at home and having that independence. And so one of our teams actually was one of 5 that went to the finals for New York State. So we're continuing that competition this year, and we have 10 teams that have entered on campus.
And for those who aren't familiar with Panache, can you just give a quick overview of what that competition is like?
Sure. So it's the largest pitch competition on campus. It's focused on a technology idea, and winners walk away with cash prize of $25,000 and $27,000 in in-kind services. So it's the crown jewel of our competitions on campus, and we're really trying to prep our students to be competitive for that competition.
Well, it's a great opportunity too for pitching for a purpose, so to speak. There's when you get out into the real world of startups, like you're pitching for real dollars, and I think that's a great thing to experience when you're at college and you don't have literally your livelihood riding on the line potentially.
Right. I mean, we tell all of our students, we focus not only on entrepreneurship, but something called intrapreneurship, because each one of us, whether we're going to start our own business or work for someone else, inherently, we want to drive innovation. We want to offer something new to our customers. And so we will all, in some way, have to learn to pitch, whether we're looking for resources to support our department or if we need some seed funding for our idea. So we're always telling our students that even if you're not quite ready to start something of your own, there's definitely an opportunity, a skill that you will pick up from Launchpad.
It's like you said, everything is a pitch, whether it's running a meeting at your office or actually pitching for real dollars. Everything's a hustle in the pitch.
Exactly.
Now, I understand you have something on campus called innovation sprints. What are those? Because that's something I haven't heard, and I try to be as technical as I possibly can and trendy and keep up with everything, but this is a new one to me.
Absolutely. So innovation sprints are like a hackathon or a case competition, but it's really focused on providing our students with an opportunity to experience what it's like to work in industry or in a startup where they have to solve a problem or a challenge. So we partner with either a startup organization, an established organization in the community. They identify a challenge statement. We bring the students, and then the students work over the course of a couple of hours to come up with solutions for the organization around the challenge.
So that's my next question. Is this kind of like a startup weekend, but you just said it's like a condensed kind of several hour problem solving kind of competition, right?
Exactly. It's almost like startup weekend or a hackathon on steroids.
Okay.
It's a sprint for sure. Our industry partners, the startups, really have an opportunity to appreciate the talent that we have on our campus, and it's a great way for them to be able to recruit prospective employees, interns, into their organization. And for our students, like I said, it's a great opportunity to see what it's like to solve problems, the day-to-day that we all have to kind of struggle through.
How many of these innovation sprints have there been, and what kind of problems are they trying to crank through in a limited time here?
Sure. So we typically do about 3 a semester.
Okay.
We've worked with nonprofit organizations, for-profit organizations, and startups. So they come up with well, if I share too much, it would be proprietary. So I'll leave it at that.
Sure. So these are like real problems that startups or organizations are trying to solve, and ultimately they're taking those solutions potentially from the students and running with it, right?
Correct. And we've had some students that have been able to leverage these experiences into full-time positions and internships.
Which is really a great goal to have unintentionally, right?
Exactly.
Perfect. Hadar, thank you so much for joining me on the show this week. If people want to connect with you or learn more about Blackstone Launchpad presented by Techstars, how can they do that?
They should reach out via email, and I'm also the only Hadar on campus. So if you just Google Hadar at the UB directory, I think you'll find me.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming by today, and we'll be sure to keep featuring Blackstone Launchpad folks coming through as they continue to go through the program.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers. I want to thank Hadar for joining me on the podcast this week. And if you are a University of Buffalo student or just interested in the things going on at Blackstone Launchpad, make sure you check them out on UB's website. And speaking of websites, if you're looking for a new career path, make sure you head on over to 43north.org/jobs. If you're looking for a new job or just want to get involved in the startup ecosystem here in Western New York, make sure you're checking those resources out. There's dozens of jobs posted every week, and you can be a part of the growing startup scene. It's a fantastic resource. Like I said, there's dozens of jobs posted each and every week, so it doesn't matter if you're a developer or a designer or a marketing guy or a PR guy or a front-end developer, back-end developer, Linux, anything. There's a job for you, trust me. And in other news, make sure you head on over to our YouTube channel. It's 43 North on YouTube. And you can watch our newest episode of 43 Forward. It's our weekly web show that we brought back this year. Like I said, new year, new us, and new content. We're loving the content, loving publishing content. So make sure you head on over to YouTube. We featured some of the backstage happenings at the 43 North Finals back in October. Our film crew was able to interview all of the finalists before and after their pitches. And it's actually quite a good insight of just like how nerve-wracking it was pitching at the 43 North Finals. So I think it's a great episode this week, and hey, the host is a pretty good guy. He does a pretty decent job, I think. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Make sure you're subscribing on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, and head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. We're just shy of 30 written reviews. Please give me a 30. Come on, give me 30. But thank you so much for everyone who has left a review. And if you have an idea for the podcast or just want to be on the podcast yourself or just want to hear a specific type of story on the podcast, make sure you send me an email, podcast@43north.org. Thank you so much again for listening. For 43 North, I'm Nate Benson, and we'll see you at the next one.